Hey everybody, it's Rogmus Prime, here again with my buddy Plo Kool, and today we're going to be talking about Mandalorian. Season 3, Episode 1 just dropped recently, so we're going to be talking about some of our thoughts about that episode and just the Mandalorian in general, and some, the direction that the show is going. I personally have a few concerns about where they're going with the story, for this season, but I'm also excited about a lot of stuff too, so how do you feel about the premiere for Season 3, Plo?
I was a fan of it. I I really liked it. I still have my reservations just about I was disappointed that they decided to use the Book of Boba Fett as basically Mando season 2.5. And I think that's still a glaring mistake, and they shouldn't have done that because really Return of the Mandalorian, that episode in the Book of Boba Fett, should have been the premiere for season 3.
Hmm.
Um, and but looking off of that side, I thought the direction from uh, Rick Famuyiwa, um, might be butchering his name. Um, I try my best there. I haven't even said it out loud before, but uh, I thought his direction was excellent. The
Hmm.
production quality was great. Um, and I thought the volume was used effectively. Like after Obi-Wan Kenobi, just it did not look good in Obi-Wan Kenobi, but I thought it looked really good here. Um, so and then the story, it was trying to do a little too much within a short period of time.
Hmm.
And the pacing was a little off. But I had a lot of fun with it. I think it reacclimated the audience to the story, even though I'm a little irked about it just having things happen in an entirely different show that are integral to this season. But again, just had to look past it and get over it. Um, but it has me. I still have my reservations on certain things for sure, but I it got me excited again for it because it reminded me kind of some more of that season one charm to it.
Yeah. I agree with a lot of what you're saying. I mean, I like the production quality is fantastic. I agree. The direction was great. Everything looked visually great. And of course, I love a lot of these characters. I mean, Mando, of course, Grogu, Grief Karga. Love all these characters. But I guess my biggest area of concern is, I mean, I knew that this was coming because I mean, obviously it was talked about heavily in the book of Boba Fett, but like, I don't like the whole idea that like at least a large part of the season, if not the whole season, is going to focus on him kind of atoning for his transgressions with showing his face. I just, I mean, I like the Mandalorian culture. I think it's very interesting. But I just feel like the whole idea, like his whole mission, kind of for the season, like in season 2, is like to find a place for Grogu with the Jedi, right? In this season, it's like, is the whole season supposed to be about him trying to get to Mandalore to like bathe in the um I can't remember exactly what it was like the like is it supposed to be like the rivers underneath like the Mandalorian like surface
Yeah,
something
underneath the
like that.
mines. Yeah.
Yeah, the mines, yeah. So and obviously the planet's been like destroyed, but he's supposed he wants to go there to see if he can still do this. But I don't know, it just seems like if you put it into like simple terms, like it seems kind of silly that like his whole mission is like to go through all this effort to do all this stuff to like get forgiveness for like showing his face to Grogu and taking it off at various other points. Like I don't know. I mean, if you really simplify it that way, it just sounds kind of stupid to me. I mean, with Mandalorian culture, I know obviously, especially his like sect is very strict about what they do with the helmets, but a lot of other groups aren't. And I feel like I don't know the direction I'd rather see them bring to this season would be like for him to kind of trying to find what it means to be Mandalorian for himself is it's like
Hmm.
the Mandalorian culture is obviously, they have like the creed and everything, but there's tons of different sects and groups. So obviously the creed is very subjective and how you're supposed to live your life and how you're supposed to like, function as a group. So I feel like after him like meeting other groups of Mandalorians like and other Mandalorians themselves like Bo-Katan and also just being exposed to the Jedi and so many other people, I feel like it would be more logical for him to kind of define his own like version of what it means to be a Mandalorian rather than like going on an entire quest just to get forgiveness for something kind of silly from one specific sect. I don't know. That's just my personal take, but like, I don't know. I hope that doesn't end up being the focus of the whole season, because it would be like a lot of missions and a lot of effort and a lot of like stuff for him to fight through just to do something kind of, I don't know, silly in my mind.
Yeah, to I agree that if they were doing that, I wouldn't be a fan.
Hmm.
But I honestly think they're doing something different. Um, because I think Din is going to learn that he doesn't need redemption.
Yeah.
Um, and that isn't like his strict, like essentially religious upbringing isn't the truth.
Hmm.
Um, and I don't think Bo Katan has everything right either. You know, like she's been a terrorist at one point,
Oh yeah.
and
Death Watch. They were definitely
yeah,
up there as
yeah,
group.
she was a
Yeah.
terrorist and extremist, and yeah, like she has her problems. The armorer has her errors, and I actually think what they're setting up, because it was really interesting that at the beginning of the episode, the first scene, or essentially the second scene, but at the very beginning, is Din talking with the armorer, the matriarch, his religious leader,
Hmm.
who he's trying to, receive redemption from. And at the end of the episode, the final scene is him with Bo Katan, and these like very different ideological ideas
Hmm.
that are kind of conflicting with him, because he still cares about what Bo Katan has to say. Because why would he visit her? He's still, he might not agree with her, but he's still, there's a conflict within him. And I think what Din is ultimately going to be is, he's going to bring about the new way,
Yeah.
and be that reluctant hero. I've been saying that for a while, but he's going to be the reluctant hero of Mandalore who unites um the scattered Mandalorians from across the galaxy and brings them to the promised land, um and create a new way of living that isn't like a super the creed isn't going to be the be all end all. I don't think. I'm That's what I think they're doing. I really would hope not, that they're making, like, being sympathetic to religious extremists.
Hmm.
Or maybe the armor extremist might be too much, but cultist is actually pretty accurate.
Yeah.
To be like, there was no hesitation in the Book of Boba Fett when she found out that he had taken off. It's like, okay, you're an apostate.
Yeah.
Cast him out. They have no connect. Like, that's like religious fundamentalism. Like, it it isn't. I don't think we should be admiring that, or like pulling for, like, oh yeah, he needs to get redemption. Like, I think it's pretty obvious that they've been painting that group as extreme,
Yeah.
and I would be very confused if, like, we want him to be redeemed. It's like, well, that's kind of silly. Like, why should he it like, why?
Yeah.
Because we've known for years and years, even just in Star Wars canon, that there's so many different Mandalorians. Like, it's not like it's been a canonical thing of like, oh, Mandalorians can't remove their helmets. Like, this is a new idea put in this show.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think it would be kind of silly if Favreau's trying to make us like want him to do that. And I know the next episode is called Mandalore. So I
Mm.
think we're going straight to the mines.
That's what I'm hoping.
Yeah, and
Because
I think
yeah.
I'm hoping actually that there's like a huge revelation to Din, and we in this season honestly just takes a completely different direction.
Yes. Yeah. I agree with that 100%. And like what you're talking about, like that's what I would like to see. I would like to see him kind of move away from the way of his like current like sect with the armor and stuff, and kind of like you're saying realize that, that's not, yeah, he doesn't need redemption. you know? So that's where I'm hoping. My overall concern, just kind of coming in though, what I was saying earlier was like, I hope they don't. First of all, obviously, I hope he doesn't like stay committed to being redeemed and he does it and he goes back. I don't want that to happen. And on top of that, like, I don't want them to drag it out too long either.
Mm.
So I'm glad that you seem to think it's gonna like they're gonna get to Mandalore in the next episode. Because I would rather them not rush it, but like I don't want to see like a whole season of him trying to get his redemption. He realizes he doesn't want it, like in the last episode. You know,
Hmm.
like because I think there's a lot of cool things you can do with Din Djarin. Like once he realizes that like he doesn't need the redemption, he kind of moves on from that. At least that pattern of thinking. You know, because there's so many cool things you can do with him. So
Yeah, like I'm honestly hoping, I'm just having this idea actually, that the show takes a direction of him, okay, realizing he doesn't need redemption, but he
mm,
still realizes that Mandalorians as a whole need redemption.
yeah,
And
I love that.
they need to be united. So, and they've been so many different, like that was one thing about season 2 that I really liked, is it was his worldview was being changed.
Hmm.
Um, like because he first met Bo-Katan. Um, and like when he realized that they took off their helmets, he was immediately just like the armor's like, "Oh, you guys aren't real Mandalorians."
Yeah,
And then a couple episodes later, he meets Boba Fett and was just like, "You aren't a Mandalorian. You can't have that armor." But at the end of the episode, he was like, "That armor belongs to you." Like
yeah,
he's starting to get it. Um, and like he's interacting with all these different worldviews. Like Boba Fett, technically, he is kind of like, I think under this new umbrella, I think Boba Fett can be considered as a Mandalorian. Like, and I think that's what he's going to be learning, is that there's just these different ideas. Um, and I think so. That was like one thing I really like about season 2, and then even in Book of Boba Fett, like he's teaming up with Boba, and he has no problem with Boba like taking off his helmet or anything. He's not being um rigid about that. And even with Bo-Katan in this episode, like he's not trying to say she isn't a Mandalorian.
yeah,
He's coming to her for advice.
yeah.
Um so I'm hoping that's what this show goes, and then like we get resolve this redemption thing out of the way early in the season, and then maybe what they'll do is actually have him go try and find other Mandalorians and unite them. So I think it's been confirmed Boba Fett's going to show up again.
Yeah, I saw that.
So I wonder if he's going to be trying to use Boba Fett as a part of his way to bring Mandalorians together. We might even be seeing Mandalorians fighting each other at some point.
Hmm.
I wonder. Maybe
Certainly
I-
possible. Yeah,
like I feel like Bo-Katan and the armor might have a confrontation.
that would be fun. I would enjoy
Yeah,
that. Yeah,
yeah. So like
because they
I
kind of
don't
have to
know. Like
resolve like kind of like what kind of with what we're both talking about. Like, there's gonna have to be some kind of like story that goes back to like the armor. Like if Din, makes the decision that we think and hope he does, right? There's gonna have to be something to like go back to like the armor with like her reaction and how she moves forward. So.
yeah. So I have, yeah, definitely still have my reservations, but
Mhm.
overall I'm pretty excited about having I always was hoping that the Mandalorian title of the show would have a double meaning of
Mm,
being about Din Djarin, but the Mandalorian also just being about Mandalore as a whole.
yeah,
And that's why like again, it's kind of goes back to what we talked about in the Bad Batch videos, but it's widening the scope of the show.
yeah, yeah,
And like and I think that's a good thing. Like I like the smaller scope of season 1 is excellent, and I just finished rewatching it.
yeah. I need to go back and rewatch.
Yeah, and it's
I
like
would love to do
there's
that.
no familiar faces from anything else. It's entirely its own thing, but you're invested. Um and I like that. But I also like I don't mind the show getting bigger and connecting to the wider picture of Mandalore, and I think that could be really interesting from a storytelling perspective.
Oh, I 100% agree. And I like what you were saying too about kind of bringing all these different Mandalorians together, and kind of like what I was talking about earlier with like defining what it means to be Mandalorian. And I guess in a lot of ways, what I hope would be, what Din realizes and what he's able to hopefully impart on others is that like there is no one singular definition of what it means to be a Mandalorian. That
Mhm.
you can have your differences, and everyone, all these different people from different groups and sects can come together and be all Mandalorians. It's not like, oh, this is the way here. This, going back to the phrase, "This is the way," right?
Mhm.
There is no one way, right? You can be Mandalorian, and Boba Fett is Mandalorian, and Bo-Katan's Mandalorian, and the Armorer, Din, all these people are Mandalorians, despite their various affiliations and mindsets. That they're all Mandalorian, and that's also a good message, just in general, just for life. Just the fact that people can be different, be themselves, and be unique, and still come together and be one. So that would be a great, story, and also just a nice life message too.
Yeah, for sure.
About open mindedness, respect, those kinds of things. So I would really like it, like if they took that direction, and like you said, making Mando kind of the reluctant hero that ends up really bringing Mandalore back together and uniting it. And he does have the dark saber, and I don't know. I wonder if they're gonna continue. Like, is the dark saber going to continue to have as much weight, or is it more going to be like what I would hope would be more about not necessarily having the dark saber, but who has it? Like, because Bo-Katan kind of, whenever we saw her at the end of the new episode, she was kind of saying like, oh, she couldn't unite anybody because she didn't have the saber, right? Because the saber carries so much great weight with respect from other Mandalorians. But I would hope that a lot of it isn't necessarily like, oh, Mando has the sword, let's just follow him, and more about like how he's actually able to lead, you know, and like bring everybody together because of who he is, not just because he has the saber. So in other words, making it more important, like not who has the saber, but who is the leader, making it more about that person, you know.
Yeah.
So that would be really interesting if you almost like moved, not like to like make the saber not matter, but to make it less significant about having the saber and more significant about the ability to bring everybody together. So in other words, that Bo-Katan is not the right person to unite Mandalore, but Din could be.
Yeah, like especially even Bo-Katan seems to be a little more disillusioned about the dark saber too, because she was like, "Wave that thing around and they'll follow you."
Mm-hmm.
Um, and she seems to be much more jaded. She already was jaded, but she seems even more jaded now.
Yeah.
Um, because but it is interesting, yeah. 'Cause I mean, she was, given the dark saber.
Yeah. By
Um,
Sabine, right?
yeah. So I mean,
Oh,
she
yeah.
and Sabine didn't win it.
Yeah.
She just took it from Maul.
Yeah. So I guess Maul was the last person to, well, I guess technically
Well,
Mando
now,
won it from Moff Gideon.
yeah, yeah, maybe Gideon won it from uh
From because
Bo-Katan in some
Bo-Katan
way.
had it. I doubt it. I bet he probably like confiscated it or something.
Yeah, that's
I doubt he
probably.
actually won it in one-on-one combat.
But it is interesting that that Bo she didn't win it in combat, but and that maybe lessened her respect, within Mandalorian culture.
Yeah.
Um, and she didn't rightfully earn it or something. Like I don't know. I'll be curious to see how they explore that.
Yeah. Because I'm trying to think, like, obviously Tar Vizsla had the dark saber. That got passed down eventually till Pre Vizsla had it. And Maul won it in one-on-one combat from him.
Yeah.
And then Sabine, I guess, took it, but then Gar Saxon got it, right? In Rebels.
Oh, did he?
I think Gar Saxon had it. And then him and Sabine fought. I don't remember. I don't think he won it from her. I think he took it, and then she fought and beat him. She used like Ezra's lightsaber or something.
Oh, right, 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 right.
And then
I
I think
it's been a
Sabine beat Gar Saxon and took it. So she actually won it.
She
Like
did. Yeah, she did.
from
So
Gar Saxon though, not from Maul.
yeah,
I mean, she wouldn't be able to beat Maul, but I mean, you know,
No, but like it is interesting that it went from Maul to being stolen
yeah,
and just it had a really interesting journey from then on.
yeah. So some
Um,
people have won it. Like Sabine did win it, but not from Maul, and then Mando won it, but also not from Maul. So technically, I guess there's a claim out there that could say
yeah,
that Maul still is the rightful owner, but
yeah, even though he's dead.
you know he's dead at this point. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
but that is interesting.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know what kind of like I don't know if like the Mandalorian Creed has any kind of like rule for if you die still wielding it, how it gets passed down. But yeah,
Yeah, and I think we might just have like yeah, that whole thing might actually just start breaking down, and that comes
yeah,
a part of like just like it doesn't matter
yeah. That's kind of what I'm
how.
hoping.
Yeah, like as you were saying, like, and I'm hoping that's what they do.
Yeah, that would be really good if they did that. That would that's the direction I think we both hope they take. So
Hmm.
that would be great. It's a cool sword. I love it. You know, but it would be the best I think story like course to have it relegated to not being what's most important to actually lead Mandalore.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. But yeah, I think a lot of what we've talked about, I think, is all very likely to happen. So, I mean, of course, it's always great to have the suspense, you know. So, hopefully, there's plenty of surprises and things we're not expecting. But hopefully, some of these things we're talking about will end up happening. And I'm excited. I'm excited for more of the Mandalorian. And it sounds like Jon Favreau is saying that the Mandalorian is going to go on for a long time. So,
Yeah, that a part of me is a little worried about that.
yeah.
I don't
Mhm.
mind not having an end in mind. Not like all
Hopefully, it's a
show.
few like inklings of what he wants to do.
Yeah, like it
You know,
obviously seems like I mean he already wrote season 4. So like there's still a plan from
yeah,
season to season, but he doesn't have a rigid ending and that's fine.
yeah.
Um but yeah, it does I hope there has some type of like end goal in like some type of end goal in mind.
Hmm. Yeah, hopefully it does. But yeah, I mean, I'm excited for it to go on as long as the quality stays there. I mean, no one wants to see a show go on longer than it should in the sense that it starts getting
Exactly.
worse. So,
Exactly.
absolutely. I mean, especially since The Mandalorian, I mean, I think uh is probably the biggest thing in Star Wars right now in terms of like audience by far.
Easily.
So, I mean, it would be pretty bad if it like started getting bad and people started dropping off and then it ended, you know? So hopefully they like I'm cool with it being long. You just don't want it to be so long that it overstays its welcome and gets bad, you know?
Yeah, like my whole hope was that maybe they'll get to a point where they end it with a movie.
Yeah.
That would
That'd be
be
cool.
yeah, which because I think at this point, like, if you build it up long enough, you could release a Mandalorian movie, and you would have a big enough audience
That would be
to where
huge.
that would perform incredibly well.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And I mean, let's be honest, Grogu is like a stroke of marketing genius.
Oh, without a
So,
doubt.
I mean, there's a lot of people I know who aren't Star Wars fans who watch The Mandalorian
Yeah, same
primarily.
here.
So I mean,
Same
like
here.
I mean, I'm a big Star Wars fan. I watch everything, but like, I mean, there's tons of people I know who are just watching The Mandalorian. Have some people who might not have even seen all the movies who are watching The Mandalorian, and
Mhm.
I think a lot of that is because of Grogu. So,
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, but I'm not going to complain because I mean, it would only be bad if it was like just a garbage show and a bunch of people just tuned in for that. But it's not. It's actually a good show. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
I have no complaints to be honest in that regard. I mean, with Grogu being super popular, I mean that's just bringing more people to a show that's really good. So,
Mhm.
you know, so yeah, not quite as good as Andor in my opinion, but I think it's
No,
great.
it's how I've kind of gone about it is just, like, comparing the 2 is a disservice to both shows.
Oh, absolutely, I agree.
They're they're trying to be completely different things.
Oh yeah, I agree. There's no need to try and compare them. I mean, like I said, I personally, I mean, Andor is so fantastic. It's like, I mean, to me, I mean, one of the best things in all of Star Wars,
Yes, I
apart from the
agree.
original trilogy, of course. Um, but I mean, the Mandalorian does its own thing really well. So I agree. There's not, they're both really good, Mandalorian and Andor. So, you know, but at some point down the road, you and I can do an Andor video because I mean, I know we both absolutely love that show. So
Oh, yeah, for sure, definitely, I'd love
that's
to.
gonna be great. But anyways, thank you all for tuning in. Uh we're excited about what's to come in the Mandalorian. Hope you all are as well, and definitely let us know what you think down in the comments below.